there's definitely a lot of tips and tricks for stretching and for maintaining my body that I'm I'm really confused why they're not more common practice growing up. I guess you go to PE as a kid and they teach you a thing or two about stretches, but I've been doing this stretch right here my whole life, and then I go to a PT office and they're like, "Quit ducking your head down when you do that stretch. You got to keep your head up and your neck straight when you stretch that tricep."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "What? I've been doing this wrong for 20 something years. No one told me anything." I've always been in the gym looking like that.
And that's the interesting thing, because it's like you're gonna get it, you need somebody who, like, with regards to stretching and like exercising, you can only specialize in so many things in life. So it's really useful to have like a PT, for example, like show you those details. Because like in my case, I'm going to be spending 4 years in PT school, like studying this crap. And it's really cool, but it's like, dude, yeah, you can't know everything when it comes to like working out and exercising. And it's like, that's my domain. But then let's say I moved into like something like creative writing. I'm going to be lost. Or if I moved into something like what you want to get into, dentistry, dude. Yeah, right, bro. Good luck. Yeah, good luck with your teeth, man. Try brushing every once in a while. And that's the thing, man. Like it's so tough. Like it's so much nuance. It's like you would think, oh yeah, let me just do this. It's like, no, dude, there's so much nuance. And it's like, no, actually keep your trunk upright, keep your neck back. It's like all these little things. It's like you're not going to come across that unless you like talk to somebody who's actually spent time doing that stuff. Because there's so much nuance. And I think the best way to learn, this is why I love having a podcast channel, is through conversation. Because it's like it's you showing somebody else like, all right, I feel like I understand this, but then you talk to somebody, you're like, actually, I feel like I don't really know that much about this whole thing. And then somebody else talks to you about it, and then you clarify your ideas. Yeah.
Talking to those specialists, you're talking to people that have committed more of their life to understanding that concept. And although with the internet, us humans, I feel like we get the false sense of knowledge that we know it all. Oh, what kind of species of bird is that? Oh, I'm not sure. Let me just take a photo of it, and like Google will tell me. It's like, oh yeah, I knew that. That's a bald eagle. Obviously.
That's a cooter, a red-breasted booby.
They have those. I think they're called like red-breasted. Yeah, red-breasted.
It's like no, they actually have birds called boobies. It's hilarious.
Oh, the blue-footed boobies.
Blue-footed booby, and then they have like a cooter.
Oh God. I think I've seen some of those. It's
hilarious, bro. I'm like, do these biologists just have a good time, bro? They're probably wasted when they're making these names up.
They're just out of names, man. There's so many. They're like, that's it.
Let's call that a cooter.
That's it. We just gotta get something that's gonna stick. We need to help these kids out in anyone that's studying this craft of naming birds. We need to make it a little bit more appealing. They're like, let's get some youth, in our field of study. Let's get some cooter birds and booby birds, and should bring the audience over to us.
that'll appeal.
Yeah, but honestly, getting the specialist advice, and that's something I really look forward to speaking to you about until I die. To be honest, is your expertise in physical therapy. That's something that we all need constant, maintenance on. And that begins with getting a good education on that from someone who specialized in it. Because I can't sit here. I mean, I guess I could sit here and study everything that you study and learn it as much as I can. But even then, without the physical presence of someone being able to show you how to move through these motions, it's really easy to just make a mistake and you can actually cause harm, to yourself. It's almost like brushing. We're mentioning me having the dental background. Obviously, you tell people to brush and floss, but you see people sometimes and they actually have recession where they've been brushing their teeth so aggressively or using toothbrushes that have hard bristles that actually causes their gums to recede a little bit, and it exposes like a more sensitive part of your tooth to the point where like they can't even drink cold water without like this sharp pain shooting through that nerve. And it's like, man, like I've been doing everything. The dent, the everything's telling me to brush my teeth in order to have healthy teeth. What's the problem? It's like, oh, actually, you've been brushing incorrectly or with,
Yeah.
improper tools. And that's something that could have been avoided if they were properly educated. But I guess, what I'm trying to say is never underestimate the impact of talking to someone that is, more specialized in anything that you're curious about, because they could probably give you a more in-depth understanding on a certain topic than you could just doing your research on your own. Um, with that
Right.
said, I'm not discouraging research on your own, but if you
No,
can,
there's like
talk to
there's a bit of
somebody.
nuance. Yeah, somebody who's been exposed to the lingo and the language in a particular discipline, like there is some lingo and there's some nuance in there that allows you to kind of sift through the BS per se. That's just like if you're going through a scientific article and like you're reading some lingo and some words and you're just like, I have no idea what this means, but I looked at the abstract and the abstract said that, well, if I lift 200 pounds every 2 days, I'm going to get a six pack. Um, like stuff like that. Like it's like there's no, you got to kind of spend your time in a discipline to actually pick up on what's actually beneficial in like a given piece of information. And especially, dude, that's the thing. We get so much. Boobies are silly idiots in England. That's funny. Um, we get so much. We get so much noise nowadays in terms of like information that's thrown at us. So being able to have like a discerning eye as to what information is actually useful, that's a big skill to develop. And it's like, how do you do that and how do you develop that skill? And I think it's almost like you got to spend time in a particular discipline because you can't be good at everything. Because if you try to be good at everything, you're just gonna suck at everything. That's my general take on it. Um, and it sucks, bro. Because like me personally, I have so many interests. Like I want to be really good at guitar. I want to be really well read in philosophy. But like for example, these past few weeks to try and pass a practical, like dude, spending 60 hours in a lab just to pass, like it doesn't really it doesn't really allow you to kind of get that specialization in other areas. But on the other side of that, it gives you learn a lot about the nature of life as you struggle towards like a very particular set of skills. Like I think that a lot of skills are actually transferable. So if I spend a lot of time mastering the discipline of physical therapy, uh, that teaches me like really that I can do more than I think I can. Like I didn't know I could spend so many hours a day studying. And it's like the more I did it, the more it started feeling normal, which was a really interesting phenomenon that I started experiencing because it was like initially you have like this mental resistance to spending a lot of time studying, to spending a lot of time like in front of a book or spending a lot of time practicing skills. But it's almost like the more you do it and the more you spend time developing a set of skills, it's kind of like you stop asking like is this something that I should be doing? And instead it's just like this feels like your new normal. Like I practice this many hours a day, or I study this many hours a day, or I develop this skill this many hours a day, and it just starts to feel normal. Even if it's something ridiculous like 12 hours a day. So
It
what
seems
do you
like you're
think?
almost talking about building habits, and no matter what it is that you choose to be your specialty in life, uh, part of becoming a specialist in that is forming the habits that allow you to properly educate yourself and practice that specialty to an extent,
Yeah.
and that just kind of became who you are and what your specialty is. And like you said, it's transferable. It's not just PT, but it's also the ability to form habits that allow you to teach yourself and to educate yourself. And that could be applied to anything, really. Being able to have the awareness of something you're curious about, bring yourself to be attentive to that subject, and then becoming emotionally involved in whatever it is that you are doing by being curious enough and enjoying the learning itself till eventually you reach a point that you start to act and speak like a specialist with the knowledge that you've been able to attain. And at that point you got to compare yourself to people that have been doing it longer or studying maybe newer material, that then that you can get into the nuance of who is more specialized in this or that. But but you did the basis, which is incorporating it into your life and being able to learn, building those habits.
So what happens when we take on heavier loads in life with regards to really everything? Because I think that we're highly adaptable species, and realistically, if we are highly adaptable, neuroplastic, BDNF secreting species, it's like, dude, the the reaches of what we can accomplish is realistically endless. And if I really wanted to, bro, I could live off of 6 hours of sleep a night. I'm not recommending that, but it's almost like if I decided one day that 6 hours of sleep was enough for me and I wanted to spend all of my waking hours like honing my skills and getting good at my craft, I think my brain would start developing around that, and that I wouldn't really have, after that initial point of friction, like I don't think I would have any problems doing that. And I think I would argue that everybody, if they really wanted to and they found something that fills them up with so much purpose, like, bro, you are actually willing to say no to your physical needs for that passion, which is a really interesting concept because it tells me that once we find purpose in this world, like it's almost like it goes to that Maslow's hierarchy, bro. You ascend up and it's almost like you care less about those lower tiers in the hierarchy because you've reached this other point, and that actually becomes your physical food, like reaching a higher point where you find self-actualization, and that the work you do fills you up so much that you don't even care if you're hungry, bro. You just keep on going. And that's something that I think everybody wants to reach for, is like to find work that's like good like that. So what do you think when you take on heavier loads in all aspects of life? What do you think that that does to your psyche and to you as a person?
I think there's multiple parts to that because you have to want something so bad that you're willing to make sacrifices in comforts, really, of your life. You have to be able to prioritize whatever it is that you want bad enough that you're willing to cut out other pleasures in life. Obviously, I'm not talking about literally cutting out food or cutting out sleep, but um, to an extent, you're getting, the food for your soul now is your passion for whatever it is that you're trying to specialize in. And I think you'll find with anything, there's usually a curve to learning something and to practicing it. In the beginning, it's uncomfortable because you foolishly don't know what you're doing. And once you understand that you have to get through that growing pains, eventually reach a point where you become, you know, moderately okay at something, intermediate. But to reach an exceptional mastery of something, you have to push further, or else you're just going to plateau at a certain level of understanding, of knowledge, of skill, of practice. So, in order to get to that point that you were saying, where you crave a higher workload, a more rigorous schedule, whether it be for school or for working out or any trade that you're trying to achieve, even businesses, if you want to reach a higher goal financially, you have to cut out certain pleasures, certain maybe habits that you've already formed in order to reach this new level, this new It's almost like a, I wouldn't call it status because it's kind of, I guess it could be very personal, but it's definitely a new level within yourself to kind of evolve. And really, it comes down to adjustment. You have to force yourself to make an adjustment, and there might be a lot of discomforts in the way, but if you could make the transition pleasurable, you might find that you could form habits that allow you to take on that harder, more rigorous workload and make that adjustment sooner. And then at that point, it's a matter of, can you continue? Can you keep up that workload? Can you keep up those habits that are allowing you to work at this higher level, higher functioning status? I mean, it's a
So
lot. There's a lot
with
of
the lows and
steps.
highs, yeah, for sure, for sure. With the lows and highs that come to reaching that new status, like I kind of want to break down like what are the factors that go into somebody being able to maintain, like let's say that you've built up to this high level. Like what are the factors that go into somebody being able to maintain this skill that they've worked up to at that high level, even when you wake up and let's say you just feel like total garbage. Let's say you got a flu or something. Like there's still some people who are able to wake up day in and day out on those really like super crappy days where you didn't get a good night's sleep, you're not feeling good, uh like your car broke down, all that stuff, and you're stressed. Like what is it that gets somebody to that like that mental box where they're, regardless of what happens, they're able to stay in that fight? And I think part of it is discipline, but I don't think it's that simple. I think discipline is like one aspect, but then there's something else that keeps somebody like interested in continuing to maintain like this new high level that they've reached. So like what is that? Is it like a personality trait? Is that something that like only a select few people have? Is it something that can be cultivated? Which I would argue, yeah, I think everybody has the ability to cultivate a mindset that's like strong and a mindset that is unshakable with regards to like when life throws shit at you, which it inevitably will, like you're able to keep on that path. So I think discipline is part of it. So I want to break it down further. So aside from discipline, like what do you think would lead somebody to be able to continue maintaining like a high level? Like let's say that they've built a business, but it's hard, and like let's say that the profits aren't necessarily going well and the business is like it's there, it's not like underwater, but like this person's still there putting in that work. Like what do you think?
We all know about Pavlov's experiment with the dogs, right?
Right.
And you give them the treat and they salivate, and then eventually uh, they associate the task that they're being trained to do with the treat, and then eventually you can just give them the task and they'll salivate anyways without the treat.
Hmm.
I think being able to get through hard moments when there's been a big buildup of rigor and discomfort in your trajectory and trying to
Hmm.
grow yourself with whatever task it is, whatever skill that you're trying to do. It's really about how well you were able to make a foundation for that habit, for the habits that led you to that point. Because eventually there is not going to be a treat at the end. Eventually, you're not going to see immediate gains from whatever it is that you're trying to do and expand on. And you have to be able to push through when you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. That's really, I think, what it comes down to. And that takes a lot of willpower. But there's certain tricks, I think, that might make it easier for you to maintain a level of rigor, a level of exceptional work, even when it seems like the odds are against you. We're only human. So
Right.
there's definitely only so much we can take sometimes. There's definitely times where you might not want to try as hard anymore to reach those goals because you're not seeing any gains from it. It's taking a lot for you to maintain that work level. It's taking a lot of willpower to overcome the temptations of easier pleasures, or maybe a more easier to attain lifestyle. Then those things are going to constantly be present. But when things aren't going well for you on your path to achieving a high level of workload, those things are going to become even more nagging at you, and more enticing to just kind of fall back into those comforts versus continuing to push through, and overcome whatever drought that you're experiencing when it comes to willpower, and actually get seeing the results of your work. I think it comes with experience too. If you're not experienced in those kind of struggles, then you're never going to want to push through it because you have plenty of comforts you could fall back on. But if you do have
So
experience on,
do you think influencers are at a disadvantage
what do you
because of the
influencers, like what kind of influencers?
let's say there's a TikTok influencer who is an overnight famous person. Do you think that they're at a disadvantage when it comes to taking on the difficult loads in life?
I mean, I don't know what that person's gone through. If we make this example, someone who's like a 16 to 18, a young person, an 18-year-old, that is getting TikTok famous or Instagram famous, whatever kind of platform famous, and getting even money from it, in connections and such. They might do well. They might be able to snowball, that positive 15 minutes of fame, or I guess in these apps it's more like 30 seconds of fame, literally the video. But I guess really the challenge would be, are they going to be a one-trick pony and just let their viral video define them? And every time they go on a new, local news channel, or they get featured on a different person's profile, they're just going to do the same shtick that they did on the video that made them famous.
Bro, that's Yodel Boy, man.
Right. He actually had some
Like
concert
he
like
fizzled out.
appearances.
Yeah, he
I mean,
fizzled
but
out there.
he's 12 or something, right? He's like a kid.
No, do better, bro.
I mean, okay, but I guess if we want to use him as an example, yeah, he had his one, talent, right? Albeit it was probably emphasized too because he's a cute kid. Is he actually talented at yodeling? I don't know enough about yodeling to answer that question. Was
I
it
mean, he
actually?
sounded good. He
Yeah,
sounded pretty
right.
good, man.
I thought it was. I thought that most of the shtick was that he was cute and he's a kid and he got the little get up, with little bow tie thing, the little cowboy, and the boots. It was
Oh
adorable.
yeah, it
But
was.
and he did go on many different platforms to kind of like vibe off that energy, and I think people saw how famous he was, and that's why they brought him onto their concerts or whatever it was. But let's just say, going off of the older boy, is he going to continue to grow and expand his personality and his skills? I hope so. I'm sure he will.
See, you missed that, didn't you? With Walmart Plus and Home, an associate delivers
ads,
and puts away your groceries, whether you're home or not. Hi, Mike. No tips, no markups.
There
no
you go. Sorry. Okay, now we're ready.
All I do is say, oh Lord, that last song day she said goodbye. Well, Lord, I thought I would cry. She do me, she do you, she's got that kind of loving. Lord, I love to hear when she talks.
Like, he's pretty good, man.
He's such a beautiful dream.
Is he though? Like,
I think he's pretty good. I mean, with my somewhat limited musical experience, I think he's got.
is he in tempo and everything?
I think he's doing. It seems like a well-rehearsed act. Like, he's not bad.
Yodel boy.
Like,
also, I forgot that he was Walmart Yodel boy, and we actually got a Walmart ad.
That's the best part. That's literally the best part. Like, it's such a simple thing, bro. Like, he's honestly one of those ones that I wanted to see like
Succeed.
do well. But it seemed like he kind of fizzled out, unfortunately. Because
and maybe it's like what we were just talking about. He's probably too young, and I hope he enjoys the simple pleasures of being young before he tries to go out and hustle. But if he did want to, hustle and get on that grind and use that 15 minutes of fame, he would need to, really push into discomfort and go beyond the simple, comforts of his home and his career as a middle school student or whatever it is. And he'd have
Career
to
as
like
a
probably
Walmart.
he'd probably have to drop all that, pursue like professional music lessons, go into like the music industry and like sign a label, and or maybe not a label, but maybe get involved with the community and constantly be touring. And then on top of that, in order to maintain relevancy, maybe he'd have to do stuff outside of singing. Maybe he'd have to pick up like acting as well. Like there's definitely a lot of opportunities for him. And then maybe he drops all that, makes some money, and then he invests it in a business that he wants to run. And then he uses marketing. Now he learns about marketing. He starts marketing Yoda Boy outfits, Yoda Boy boots. Yoda Boy has a partnership now with Walmart, let's just say. And he starts selling like little cowboy hats or Yoda Boy
has
action
a partnership
figures
with Backpack Kid.
Yeah, exactly.
Like what happened to him, bro? He fizzled out too.
He's
by the way, I really
kid,
have
right?
to pee. I have to pee. Go ahead and you talk to Jamie. Yo, Jamie.
Wait. Give me access to the tab or something so I can pull something up.
Okay. Here you add a tab and I'll add you.
Okay. It's gonna piss
my
the pants.
I'm gonna pee my pants, bro. I gotta put in a catheter. So during these shows, you gotta put in a Foley cath.
Share screen.
Yeah, do it through the Google
Chrome
share.
tab, new tab, share.
Add
I think it's sharing.
Yep, it's good.
Nice. Welcome to the P Podcast. In the next minute, we will be listening to Daniel's waterfall in the background and my soothing voice. We hope that you're able to achieve a level of comfort today. Sit back, relax.
This meditation.
Imagine yourself so deep in a dream that you find yourself teleporting in front of a restroom. You step inside. The smell of freshly mopped tile welcomes your nostrils, and you start peeing. Then you wake up and you're covered in piss.
Oh god. I had to listen to that the whole time I was peeing. That was great.
Oh, thank God. Oh, cool. Good.
Because I had my headphones in. Damn, that was a big one, man.
Good.
Almost made the toilet overflow.
Yeah, hate when that happens.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to talk about this one thing. You talked about a conditioning.
Yeah.
So conditioning is an interesting thing.
You had mentioned like, how do you push through when stuff gets rough? And I guess I was trying to say that you got to have a good foundation, because like we're
the
only
David
human.
Goggins Foundation.
Yeah.
You seen that guy?
Actually, no.
Dude, David Goggins, like he's like a Jocko Willinks kind of guy, where it's all like, I wake up at 5 a.m. and I run 20 miles.
He's got like a really big head.
I think he's got a big head.
And he's got like a voice like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. He's got like a voice like this. How many of you are tired of waking up every morning and not being a millionaire? Raise your hands.
Yeah, that sort of thing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Love it.
Like people like that, they've definitely just built a whole mental framework around enjoying the stuff that's difficult. So it's almost like, okay, personality, if personality is not like a stagnant thing, and if your personality can change over time, like these people, when they were first, like, let's say they're young adults, I'm sure that they weren't about that life. Like they weren't like, yo, I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. like as a 17-year-old. And they're like, yeah, I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m., go for a 12-mile run just for funsies. And then when I get done, I'm going to go to the gym and work out for 2 hours. And then after that, I'm going to go ahead and coach a group of kids and like just carry out a full work day. Like, no, they cultivated that personality over time. So there's something about kind of like what you're saying, conditioning. and building up an entire mental framework around loving that which is difficult. And that brings me to another concept, which I'm interested to hear your thoughts about this. They've mapped out, like, essentially what leads to the experience of more reward while you're working. And Dr. Andrew Huberman is somebody I like to listen to. And he talks about how when you are doing work, or let's say you're trying to accomplish a task, you're not looking to get the reward at the end of that task, but instead you're making the work itself, like in your mind, you're telling yourself that the work is the task that's itself rewarding. So when you do that, people are actually finding that, like, your limbic system works a lot better, and you're able to experience more pleasure in the moment doing a task when you aren't, like, looking for some kind of reward at the end of that task, because you're telling yourself in the moment, I'm not doing this to get some kind of monetary reward at the end. I'm not doing this to get a trophy at the end. Instead, what I'm doing right now is working for the sake of work, because work is good. And, like, he talks about how basically you can see your limbic system goes off, and you get more dopamine during that task if you aren't sitting there saying, I'm doing this for the sake of getting some reward at the end. So I thought that was pretty interesting. It's like, instead of you seeking something at the end of it, it's like, nah, man, this thing that I'm doing right now is good.
Can you trick yourself into liking what you're doing? Because there's some people out there that I'm sure are hearing that and they're going, yeah, well, right. Like, how the heck am I going to enjoy this work? I hate this job, or I hate studying, whatever it is that they need to be doing. They've been looking, they've been doing it because the paycheck. They've been doing it because the end goal is what they need in order to move on, or in order to sustain how they're living today. How do you get to a point where you can convince yourself that actually doing the task itself is euphoric and that's all the satisfaction you need? Can you trick yourself into it, or do you just have to choose something that you enjoy doing? I'm on the fence with this one personally.
Yeah. I mean, it might be a combination of those two things too. Obviously, choosing something that you enjoy doing that helps you reach flow state is huge. But I do think, in a sense, you can build up a set of beliefs really around anything. And this is interesting. I have a big thought about this, and it's like a yarn
Break
ball.
it down.
I'm trying, bro.
It's like, you ever get like a string with a knot? It's a real tight knot, and you just kind of like,
yeah, it's exactly how it is.
Fight it. That's what you're doing right now. You're trying to put it eloquently, but you gotta get the kinks out.
I think it takes enough thought. Okay, I'm gonna put it this way, bro. If you spent enough time looking ahead into the future, and let's say you've thought about the rewards that you would get at the end of this. Okay, so let's say that you get a paycheck very reliably, and that's why you're working. I would say that would get kind of old. And it's very predictable. But I still don't think that a paycheck itself, if you look ahead and you look far enough, is something that can provide you meaning. Okay, it's necessary. Don't get me wrong, it's necessary for your survival. But a paycheck isn't something that can, like, directly in itself give you meaning. So I think for a person, let's say somebody is meaning driven, okay? Like, if you are looking for monetary gain, you're not directly looking for monetary gain. You're looking for the thing that money allows you to do. Because people who are in pursuit of money, like it's not the money itself that gives their life meaning. It's what money allows you to do. And I would argue it's the same thing with work. If you're doing work that allows you to get lost in it, that's providing you with meaning. And that's, I think, at the core of what we ultimately seek is like, what provides my life meaning? So being paycheck oriented versus being in the present with the work that you're doing and kind of losing yourself in that work and having that paradigm shift to see the work that you're doing as something that provides you with meaning and something that provides you with like a feeling of I'm here for a reason. I think that's ultimately going to be longer lasting and something that gives you more longevity in that job than being a paycheck by paycheck kind of person. So I think it takes somebody to look like multiple steps ahead to see that, like, yeah, I do need this paycheck, but how can I enjoy the work that I'm doing? And maybe it's kind of like what you said earlier, like you got to find work that you enjoy. But at the same time, I think you can make a mindset around any work that you do. Like when I worked for something super simple like Takeout Hero, bro, you could hit flow state working for a freaking delivery company. Like there's a part of like you stop asking like, is this thing that I'm doing meaningful? And then you like just become so proficient at that task. Like, bro, the way I would place the food down, like I would pay attention to that. Like the way that I would get the food into the bag, the way that I would like greet the people that I was picking up the food from. Like it's something so simple, but it provided me with so much pleasure and joy. Like I lost myself in the task of something so stupid, but yet it felt so meaningful at the time. So bro, I think you can hit flow state and I think you can get meaning from anything, despite like even without that paycheck. Like I think what we look for at the end of the day is like meaning. And dude, you know what? Something stupid like that even provided me with meaning because I felt like I was like getting like involved in life. And I was in it, bro. I wasn't even asking questions.
I just want to see a side by side of Daniel before he got satisfaction delivering food to Daniel after. And it's like me before liking what I did. And it's just him like grabbing the to-go bag and just throwing it at the door. It's like and it's like me after, and it's you just like frolicking through their front yard, like placing it down ever so gently, clicking on the little like doorbell, leaving a cute little message on like the little camera, you know, like have a blessed day, enjoy your meal, and then he skips off. See, that's the difference. No, actually, jokes aside, the first thing you mentioned kind of you answered both. You know, I asked A or B, can you trick yourself into it, into enjoying what you do, or do you have to choose something that you already have an interest in order for you to enjoy doing that as a job? And at first, you kind of went down the path of you kind of have to do something that you love doing to begin with, or else you're SOL. And you're going to be living a paycheck to paycheck life, and you're going to not be able to actually get the full potential out of life because you will be doing something that you feel like has no purpose. And until you find something that you feel has purpose and feels like gives you purpose in society, into yourself, you know, then that's when you have a more fulfilling task. And then you get to eventually exceed at that job to the point where just doing it is satisfying, and that brings you all the joy that you need in the world. But then you also mentioned this food delivery and kind of said that you could definitely find a way to get satisfaction from that as well. I agree with you in both. I think that I partially agree, right? I think that it's easier when you find something that you love. But even that you could burn out in. It's really, you have to consistently be able to get over the fact, like, let's you're in the field that you love doing, but then 30 years from now, it's all just repetition. Nothing surprises you anymore. It's the same thing. I think even, in those cases, you have to consistently try to learn and evolve and maybe even push yourself to learn more things and maybe expand your field of knowledge and your field of capacity within that field in order to, within that specialty, in order to keep it fresh, and in order to keep you at a point where you love doing what you do just because you're doing it, not so much because of how much you're getting paid. And then to your point about the delivery service or doing any other task and actually liking it, I think that's all about your perspective on life and finding the peace within yourself and the peace within the simple moments of life. Seeing the beauty in everything, in the little things, if you will, being able to stay present in your task. I think that could definitely give you a sense of flow that people really underestimate. Maybe washing dishes isn't something that I want to do for the rest of my life. But I'll tell you what, when I'm washing dishes, that's a meditative state for me these days. I'm sitting there, I got my gloves on because I'm a little allergic to the dish soap, but I got my gloves on, looking like a whole housewife man. But I'm scrubbing those dishes and I'm able to bring myself to that very present moment, whether I'm got music on in the background or just me in silence, like with the dishes, whatever the case is. I've been able to use that as a meditative state, and it's very relaxing now. Whereas if I'm just thinking, I got to wash this so I can put this away and put these to dry, or I got to scrub this off so I can put it in the dishwasher, and then you don't get the satisfaction until you're finished with the task. That I think that's a wasted opportunity. It's kind of what I'm getting at. If you're doing any job, whether it's a job that you are passionate about the field or one that you have to do out of necessity, if you're able to reach a point where you're in that moment very present and you try to see the beauty in all the little things and also see what kind of beauty you can bring as well, I think you can get satisfaction out of anything you do.
So it's definitely all about perspective, bro. You can cultivate a positive mindset around anything, man. And that always brings me to let's take the worst situations, man. Like the people who got put in concentration camps during World War II. Like even people in those situations were able to find meaning. Even people who have been in prisons. I remember I was reading this story about people who were in prison and they recited like an entire poem. But what they did was they passed bits and pieces of that poem around all the different cells. And they had each inmate like learn this poem and they recited it like while they were in this prison, like finding meaning even with the most limited of materials. And like dude, it really is all about perspective. And like even if it's a simple job, you ever come across that person? Let's say you go to like a discount auto parts and you talk to this person at the front desk, bro, and like you just ask him like one question and that guy knows everything about that one part that you just asked him about. And it is the simplest job, but this guy, bro, this motherfucker spent his time, bro, developing the understanding of this little like windshield wiper part. And you're like, nah, bro, you want this windshield wiper with this like bicarbonate like layer on top, and you want like this like polyurethane on this piece, and then you want like this over there, like, and then this guy just goes ham on like what he's describing to you. And it's like, dude, it's really cool when you come across like somebody who's who takes their simple job really seriously. And I always get such an appreciation for that. Like this person really be out here getting flow state in a discount auto parts, like telling me the answer to this one simple question. I'm like, dude, you got so much knowledge on this stuff, man. I appreciate you. You know what I'm talking about, man? Like, or like that person at like a Walgreens, and like they're sitting there. Like most of the time, it's not great, but like when you go there and like there's that one person who's just working the cash register, and they take the time to like make a joke and like crack you up, and like they actually like start going off, and they really like actually make you laugh, dude. Like any job it's all about perspective, bro. Like, you can be in the worst situations. You can be storming the beaches of Normandy during World War II. And I'm taking it everywhere, bro. Dude, seriously, bro. Like, those guys, they had the right perspective. They did it, and they weren't even scared, some of them. Like, some of the stories that I've read about these World War II veterans, they're like, yeah, I did the job that I needed to do, and I came out okay. And it's like, damn. Like, this guy didn't even care, bro. He had this mindset of like, yo, I'm gonna just go out there and get it done. Just same thing with the Taco Bell person. And like, let's say they hate their job, but nah, man, I'm gonna show up and I'm gonna freaking make that ground beef and I'm gonna get it done. Like, dude, it can happen anywhere.
Yeah, this definitely, you could pull from all those examples, and obviously some scenarios are more dire and drastic than others, but going to like the car mechanic or the discount auto parts store, I think with that one is the perfect example in the sense that he found a job and then he found the beauty in that job when it came to the details of the parts and the science of how to improve the whole automotive experience. Then he became, whether he knows it or not, he became the beauty of that job to the customers, which is the translator. He's the person that you, someone who is not a specialist in this, you were able to go there and speak to him, and he was able to be this source of information that applied to your exact, questions and your exact details for whatever, adjustments you had to have made to your car. He was able to translate, this is what you need, this is why you need it, this is the technology that's available, and this is how it's going to help you. And that's, you found, this beauty in his ability to do that for you. And that's because he found the beauty in the job. And, he kind of got the flow state of working there, and you can almost see it radiating off of him. And it's admirable, really. Like you said, it could be any job, as long as the people have a good perspective on the situation that they're in. They could really make the best out of it, even though in some situations, like some of those examples you mentioned, there really is no plus side. There really is nothing good coming out of that scenario. There's just, sometimes you're just in a really, really, really bad place. But if you have a perspective on trying to find the beauty in existence and just being, whether it's with people or without people, you're going to be able to really get the most out of where you are at that current moment, whether it's a job or just a state of being.
Yeah. So we got a comment here.
Yeah, I'd love to read that. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So there are different kinds of people. Some individuals don't care about finding a sense of meaning or even feel a need to enjoy their work. If someone wants to find meaning, then they should pursue a job or task that is meaningful and fulfilling to begin with. If their job brings no joy, then they should find another path.
Okay.
So that's kind of like, it sort of challenges what we're saying, but at the same time, I agree and I disagree at the same time. Because I think like, in an ideal world, everybody could find a job where they could find something that brings them joy. But sometimes you get put in a situation where, like, let's say you get stuck in a city and you're stuck in this house because you got to pay rent. Like, you don't have a choice. You got to take on a crappy job. So for those people, I think my argument would be, if they have the right perspective, even though they're stuck in a really crappy situation, they can still hit flow state and they can still get enjoyment out of their job. Like the discount auto parts guy that I came across, like, I'm sure he doesn't necessarily want to be there. But my argument is that if you have the right perspective, like, even being grateful, that's a huge one. If you're like, the attitude and the perspective of having gratefulness for this position to be able to at least provide you ends meet, and then to take it a step further and be like, nah, man, not only am I going to get ends meet, but I'm going to be an expert in this. I'm going to be as good as I can. Like, that is a noble pursuit, and that in itself provides meaning to the job that you're doing.
So you're saying in his comment, when he says that there are people that don't care about finding a sense of meaning in their work, you're suggesting that even those people, if they look for it, they could find meaning. whether the job itself is something that they're passionate about. They could if they want to.
So she just commented again. So this is literally what you're just saying. So again, some people don't care. How do you convince people it's useful to change their perspective in life? I mean, I think that some people, no matter how much you talk to them, they just don't want that. Like what is meaningful to them, even the idea of living a meaningful life might not even be something that they're like into. Like they just want to satisfy their physical needs. And that in itself, for some people, is so satisfactory that the desire to ascend Maslow's hierarchy, let's say, to find something that allows you to give back to the community or something that allows you to do work that makes those around you feel better, like that just doesn't matter. And I think that's a matter of like, personality based. Like, and you know, it's tough to say. I don't know if this, and I love discussing human universals. Is it a human universal need to want to live a meaningful life? Because we do see some people around us who like, bro, they're totally content with a bag of chips and a joint in the other hand. And like, that's it, bro. Like I go to work, I work at 7-Eleven. So like, what is it for that person? Like, how do they just not feel that is it a human universal desire to want to find a meaningful existence? Or is that just like, is it dead in some people, or is it just a matter of conditioning where like somebody starts off with that desire to find meaning, but then through life experiences and like a certain conditioning, they've lost that?
Yeah, you bring good points. What is, is it something that you're born with this passion to get more out of life, get more out of, the people you're with, get more out of your job? Are you just born with this desire to like really squeeze every last drop out of what it is you're doing? Or is that something that you have to learn to do? I think personally that as a child, you are probably, and whether you consciously are doing it or not, you're in a state where you're like wired to really receive the environment and to make the most out of a situation and to see the beauty in the little things, right? Like, because as a child you really have no preconditioned notion of what should bring you happiness or what should make you sad. Other than like, I'm hungry, as a kid, you walk into a new room and just like the novelty of that room could bring you satisfaction. Like, whoa, like this place is huge. And it's like, yeah, this is a Walmart. It's not really that crazy. And then like, bro, they got clothes here, and then they got like yogurt over here. Like, what?
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm trying to say is, I think as a child, we have this innate ability in regards of how our minds are wired to kind of want to get the beauty out of things. We just naturally find it. And then as we get older, we kind of start putting these filters on, and we start to prioritize what we want to prioritize. We start to see only what we allow ourselves to see. We have these blinders on, and those blinders allow us to block out any noise from what it is that you actually prioritize as being meaningful and useful. And to refer back to this comment that we have here, do I think that some people just don't care about finding meaning in general? No, I think everyone has a sense of wanting to find meaning. They just find meaning in different things. They could find meaning in the comfort of their couch. Like they still feel like they might not consciously try to reach a state of, opening their third eye, or they're not trying to find this like euphoric meaning of life. It could just be a simple like, I'm relaxed, I'm done with work, I could kick my shoes off and I could chill. And to me, that is the most satisfying thing, right? Like that could be someone's meaning in life. That could be what they look forward to at the end of the day. Whereas other people, I feel it's just a matter of kind of taking those blinders off and kind of realigning your filters every now and then, and being able to recognize that maybe there's other pleasures, maybe there's other things that you should be focused on. And this, again, goes back to the comment saying, how do you convince people it's useful to change perspective? Sometimes it's just an environmental stimuli that really shocks them into realizing they're doing things wrong. Other times it's listening to their friends and family. Other times it's like making mistakes and failing, that makes them change their perspective. Because if you are comfortable doing things the way you are, you're not going to have any reason to change your perspective. If you are comfortable with living the life that you have set yourself out to make, and your people that you associate are also okay with that, you guys are not going to ever want to change your perspective. It's just, and if you are talking to someone like that, it's going to be a challenge. It kind of goes back to the saying of like, you could lead a horse to water, you can't make it drink. You could show them different materials to educate themselves. You can show them different means of expanding their mind. But until they get the curiosity to do so, or until they get the stimuli that wakes them up and makes them realize that there's benefit in changing their perspective, I don't think you could force it on them at all. It's like talking to, I love old people, but sometimes old people are just very stuck in their ways, and until they see the benefit of what we would consider, a normal way of life, and to them it's like a new doohickey, it's going to be hard to convince them that it's useful unless they themselves recognize, oh wow, like I can connect with my long lost friend from World War II over Facebook. Like maybe there's a use to it, so
why is it that when we age we become less open-minded? I mean, that's a trend that's commonly talked about. It's a pretty standard trope in conversation. It's like, these old people, they're so damn rigid. All they do is mow their lawns and talk about whatever respective news station that they watch.
Hey,
it's
you
like,
know what? I guarantee you when you're old, and I know you've got a great brain and you like to look from different perspectives, I guarantee when you're old, I'll place bets on this. I won't bet my life insurance, but I will bet, a good $20. Who knows how much that'll cost when we're 80. But I bet you're gonna, have certain notions, preconceived notions, and you're just not gonna want to step out of those things. You're gonna have things that you feel are true, and when someone of the new age, the new era, new generation tries to convince you otherwise, you're gonna be like, man, get off my lawn.
yeah.
And maybe the reason being isn't because you're stubborn, but maybe you tried. Maybe you just have more experience than they do. You've tried that new thing, or you've seen how something similar to that new thing has affected your generation, and you're like, woo, danger, like I got to stay away from that. And you just kind of put some walls up. I think older people get, the more that they have like a less tolerance for exploring new things because they've been burned enough. They're like, I'm going to do what I know works and live my life out in peace for the remainder, like 20 years, versus like putting it on the line.
Right. So an increase in experience has an inverse relationship with your openness to experience, essentially. So the more experiences you've had, the less likely you are to try new things. What do you think about that?
Yeah, to an extent, definitely. I know people that, there's younger people that you're trying, they want to travel a lot. They want to, try different foods. They want to try different drinks. Those same people, by the time they're, 70 years old, they drink like one drink. They have like 3 of their favorite meals that they have on repeat. And then they have like 1 to 2 vacation spots that they frequent, and then the place that they live and like their family. And like that's all they need. They don't want to go outside of that. I've seen what I want to see, and I don't want to see the rest of it. That's it. So yeah, I agree. I think that after a certain point, after you've, I think that we all could do so much more if we had more time in this world. But with the time that we have, once you get to the later end of it, you just kind of reach a point where you're like, well, I can't physically do everything I would like to do and everything I'm capable of doing. I'd rather just do what I'm comfortable with than like risking, exploring something else. And maybe at that point, it's because of like fragility at that age. Maybe that has something to do with it too.
Yeah. So it's almost like our body creates a mindset, and I truly believe in this. For example, if I become fragile and weak, a lot of my mentality is going to be built around what I cannot do on a day-to-day basis. If I'm scared that I'm going to break my bones, let's say I'm osteoporotic and I go and walk around and I'm living in constant fear that my bones are going to break if I do high impact activity, like I'm going to build my entire life around that. And then my mindset's going to match that. So it's really interesting to see how like bodily changes lead to also mind changes. And the same goes for, let's say, a more positive situation. If I build a strong body and let's say people who go to the gym, okay, you'll get, let's say you get like the super like alpha male mentality where it's like, I lift heavy and therefore I am strong. And when you talk to those same people in conversation or you work with somebody like that doing a business deal, they act a lot like they lift. A lot of the people that I talk to that are like super big meatheads, they're kind of like uh when in conversation, they have like this personality to them. And I've noticed that like certain physical characteristics lead to certain kinds of mentalities. So like the disciplined individual, let's say somebody who spends a lot of time every single day going to the gym, I also think that contributes to a disciplined mindset. Or like a Marine, for example, who has to go to PT and not physical therapy, like they have personal training stuff that they have to do. Like
Right.
every morning at like 5 a.m. they have to go and run, like that sort of thing. Like that, like the Marine types. Think of like in your head, like the guy with like the short shaved head. Like he has to act a certain way, and then when he's done with his military time, he still kind of has that personality. It's like I get up early and I run. So it's kind of like it's interesting to see how what you physically do leads to like mentally how you look at the world, and how your honestly like your physical activities lead to, or like sickness in the body leads to a certain kind of mentality towards your life. And I think that might be part of like what we're talking about, aging. Like since I am more fragile, I am less likely to want to do new things.
But what do we know? We're thankfully not at that age yet. Although we may start to feel the effects of aging. Clearly not at the age where I'm stubborn and yelling people to get off my lawn. I welcome people. Come on in. We got a lemonade stand here. I still want to learn and talk to people and explore, experience different perspectives. But maybe when I get older, maybe I won't. Who knows? I'll cross that bridge slowly when I get there. But before we go, I actually wanted to bring up some things. Maybe these are things that we can continue to expand on throughout our age in our life. One of them was the second brain, and then the other one was something I call the sleep brain. The sleep brain is something that I'm kind of trying to do more research in, so maybe I'll talk about this more in the next podcast. But it's actually the ability to see your dreams as you, but with a different perspective. It's your brain, but it's you letting go of the steering wheel. It's the same thoughts, the same, information that you've been absorbing your whole life, but you're not there driving it. You take a step back, you're unconscious, and you really just allow your thoughts to just create this. It gets like a Play-Doh of everything that you've experienced, and it just forms this dream. And you might not remember all of it, but sometimes, I don't know, have you ever experienced a dream where it has, people, events, whether they're good or stressors that you're currently dealing with in life that pop up in the dream? Has that ever happened? And have you ever solved anything from a dream accidentally? Or have you ever kind of been enlightened from something that happened in a dream? Because I know I have. I wish I wrote them down and journaled it more, but I've definitely woken up and been like, oh yeah, wow, I probably should start waking up earlier or whatever it is. Like maybe I should go to sleep later or whatever it is that the dream was inciting.
That's really interesting. Unfortunately for me, when I actually fall asleep, like it's a deep sleep, bro. Like I am gone. But this brings me to something that we've talked about before, which is meditation, and how I've almost reached this like dreamlike state right before right before sleep, but like not when you're consciously aware of everything around you. It's like this, like it's almost like the Tao. It's like something in between. So
It's typically found at the beginning of sleep, which is also kind of like the daydreaming state. And then
yes,
it's also found at the end of sleep when you're like waking up, like your alarm hasn't gone off yet, but like let's say you've slept a good 8 hours and you didn't have an alarm, and it's just like the light from the sun is peeping through the windows, and that's kind of like triggering your body slowly to start waking up, and you're awake, kind of like you can kind of like you remember turning, over, but like you're definitely still dreaming. So yeah, go on. I think you nailed it. That's exactly what it is. It's like an in between state where you're not at the steering wheel yet, but like you're in the car and you're like you're looking out the window in your dream,
yeah,
and you're like, oh,
yeah,
whoa. That's crazy. Is the moon
like
following me?
yeah, exactly. No, it's like you're able to lightly manipulate your mindset. Like I can't go in there and like do some heavy mental work. I'm sure with practice I could get better at this, but like I use this before my practical or like before something stressful. Like I'll get to a deeper meditative state, not when I'm asleep, but before that, like kind of like what you're describing. It's like you're like kind of watching stuff go by you in a window sort of thing. Um, it's it's almost like I'm able to sort of talk to my mind and say, okay, you got this big event coming up. Let's try and tone down the cortisol. Let's tone down the amount of stress, because if you don't, you're going to get some consequences, because essentially you need to be calm, cool, and collected to pass this exam. So, I'm getting a phone call. That's how I know we getting up to the wire here. Okay, let me end this phone call. Okay. Where is
Also, shout out to our commenter over here, really contributing to the conversation.
Yeah.
We applaud
where the
you.
heck? Oh, it's Google. Okay. No, we're back.
Thank you. I wonder if life expectancy of life was changed or improved if we would be more open to the changes in our older age. They say, I think so. I think so too. I think that there's, at an older age, you kind of get, you kind of direct your attention to wherever the problem is, whether it be your aches and pains or whatever is going on, family, financially, et cetera, et cetera. But maybe you can kind of be preventative even at an older age if you kind of expanded your perspective, and you were able to find new ways to tackle things or new ways to kind of protect yourself from whatever it is the case is, whether it's like physical therapy, doing that preventatively versus reactively. And, Daniel here could definitely coach you on that. And Daniel, I'm holding you to that. I hope you coach me on that as I get older too. We're both just going to be really old people using little elastic bands.
Dude.
And then the
I'm
last comment there, if you don't mind, just read it out for the audience here. It says, Salvador Dali used that light / almost asleep to create his works. So they're talking about that dream state. The comment says he would fall asleep in a chair with a pen in his hand over a metal pail. And the minute he fell asleep, it would wake him up, and he would use the method to remember his dreams. Oh, that's funny. That is funny. I like that though. It's like dream journaling, but like intentional. It's almost got like a little trap on there. So as soon as he falls asleep, he drops the pen in the pail, wakes him up. Oh, that's right. I was actually good. I should write that down.
That's great.
That's hilarious.
That's pretty neat.
I did not know that. Well, now I have a new technique.
I gotta grow out my mustache again so I can be like that. Salvador Dali had a big old. Bro, did you ever see my mustache when I had one?
Oh yeah, no, I remember. You had the little twist going on.
Oh yeah, bro.
Man, unfortunately, I think I just gotta hit the gym more, get my testosterone boosted, because I can't grow it in as full, man. I can't. I get sideburns, and those aren't really in these days.
Deadlifts, bro. That's it. Deadlifts is the answer.
Oh man, no, that's too funny.
Well, I think this is a good stopping point here.
Perfect.
So
this has been real fun. I hope to see you again soon. I know we haven't been super consistent with the time of day or the day rather that we decide to do these podcasts, but this is definitely growing and improving. I hope everyone's enjoyed Daniel's new camera, which it just ran out of battery, but he was using a camera, and then I just recently got this audio equipment here, and hopefully we continue to grow and improve from here. I would also love to have guests on the show, so we'll see. We definitely both have a list of people that are interested, and eventually I would personally really enjoy to get specialists. Like we were talking about at the beginning, you and I could study and learn as much as we can to educate ourselves. Then we go ahead and share that on the podcast to educate everyone else, and then also just give our perspective on things. But if we could have specialists come on here and actually talk about the research they're doing or the field of work they're in, that would be incredible. I really look forward to the day we could do that, and I hope we could do that sometime soon.
Yeah.
So thank you all for being here, and thank you to my brother Daniel for sharing this conversation with me.
Cheers. We'll see you guys next time.